I did NoFap for 60 days, and it changed everything. Here's how. A little over 60 days ago, I was hopelessly addicted to PMO. This was an addiction that I had picked up back in 2022. In 2022, I was undergoing some of the deepest turmoil that I had ever experienced in my life, internally and externally. And I didn't really know how to process all of the anxiety that I was experiencing on a day-to-day basis because it wasn't really a situation that I could simply get myself out of overnight. And the stress was unbearable for me. And I folded. And I folded in the form of PMO because that at the time was the most familiar and the most accessible form of escapism. I want you to keep that word in mind, escapism. That was the most familiar and accessible form of escapism for me, and I fell all the way off of the wagon. As a matter of fact, I fell so hard off of the wagon that by the time I got myself up, the wagon was nowhere in sight and I didn't know which direction to go in. Now, hearing that I was in this position is probably very surprising to anybody who's been following my channel for a while, because a big part of how I built my channel up in the first place was not only by documenting my own NoFap journey, but by inspiring thousands upon thousands of young men around the world to do their own NoFap journeys. And having fallen off the wagon at this point in my life, it felt like I was no longer a credible source of information. And I started to really doubt myself in all aspects. I lost a lot of my confidence, the confidence that I had worked so hard to build up to that point. And once I lost my confidence, everything else started to fall apart. So that just compounded all of the turmoil I was already experiencing. Once I lost that confidence, I no longer believed that I would be able to pull myself out of that situation. And I felt like even if I did have the right information, which I clearly didn't have, otherwise I wouldn't have been in that situation, I wouldn't be able to apply it effectively because I wasn't a person who was capable of applying it. That's what happens when you lose confidence, and that's what happens when you fall off of the wagon with NoFap, or as I like to call it, no PMO. And I'm sure you can relate. If you've fallen off of the wagon, especially after having done long streaks of 9 months or a year plus and documenting it for thousands of young men on the internet who then, in a sense, almost rely on you to continue doing your streak to inspire them to do the same, it really, really messes with you. And it messed with me for the better part of 2 years. Really all the way up until a little over 60 days ago. Now, what happened a little over 60 days ago that allowed me to make this transition into getting to 60 days of no PMO? Which, by the way, this is the first time I've made it to 60 days since early 2022, since I fell off of the wagon initially. The thing that allowed me to get to this point was one single realization, one epiphany, a life-changing, paradigm-shifting epiphany, and that is that I am in control of my own destiny. Now, this realization, had I had this same realization in 2022, could have very easily saved me the better part of these last 2 years where I was struggling with a PMO addiction. And I truly mean an addiction where no matter what you try, you cannot stop. But better late than never. And for me to realize that I am in control of my own life and my own destiny, my own fate, this had a twofold benefit. For one, it allowed me to put my past into perspective. You see, the situation that I was talking about in 2022, if you weren't following my channel around that time, basically I made a few catastrophically bad financial decisions that put me in a position where I was losing money on a month-to-month basis with pretty much nothing that I could possibly do about it except make more money. But again, when you lose your confidence and then you pull the rug from under your brand, which is inspiring other young men, you can't really make more money doing that. But being able to look back and realize that it was me who made those decisions that put me in that position where I had to bear all of that weight and that stress and that anxiety, none of which was necessary, by the way, because I realized that I was able to put myself in that position, I also realized that I was responsible for getting myself out of that position and furthermore, building a life that I actually want to live. You see, PMO is just an escape. Back to that word escapism. PMO is a way of escaping an undesirable chapter of one's story. And what I eventually realized was that I can either continue to use PMO as a temporary escape, or I can stop doing PMO, I can start doing no PMO instead. I can eliminate all of the distractions from my life that are providing me with a temporary escape, and I can instead put all of that energy toward not only allowing myself a permanent escape, but helping other young men like yourself a permanent escape. That said, in these past 60 days, my number one chief aim in life has been to build a better life for myself so that I can help other young men do the same. And no PMO has allowed me to do this. All of the benefits that I've experienced from no PMO have allowed me to begin building this better life and passing forth all of my insights, my inspiration and information to people like you who might very well be struggling with no PMO as well. That said, what are some of those benefits that I've experienced from having done 60 days of no PMO? Well, the first benefit that I've experienced has been an increase in confidence. All of that confidence that I had lost in 2022, or rather over the course of these last 2 years, I've pretty much regained all of it. I've regained 2 years worth of lost confidence in 60 days. How did I do that? Well, the answer is simple. But in order for me to give you that answer, you have to understand what confidence is. Confidence is trust. It is synonymous with trust. If you are confident in yourself, it means that you trust yourself. Because I folded in 2022 with the situation that I was in, and by the way, I ended up living in my car and moving back in with my parents shortly thereafter to recover from that situation. But when you fold the way that I did, you lose a lot of the trust that you had in yourself. I trusted myself to get myself out of the situation. And while I did get myself out of that situation, it wasn't really in the way that I had envisioned. So I lost a lot of that trust. Therefore, I lost a lot of that confidence. Now, how do you go about rebuilding that trust? In order to do that, you have to give yourself evidence that you are a trustworthy person. Now, one way to do that is to refer to the past by reminding yourself of the ways in which you've kept your trust. But another way is to create evidence that you are a trustworthy person. And with every day that you do on no PMO, that's what you're doing. You are creating trust. You are creating a sense of confidence within yourself because you know that you are somebody who keeps the promises that you make to yourself, because that's all trust really is. Trust is the belief that a promise will be kept, and confidence is trust. Therefore, if you keep promises that you make to yourself on a day-to-day basis, such as the promise of not indulging in PMO, and instead putting that energy toward a better life, then you will build confidence. Plain and simple. And in addition to that, another element of confidence is the lack of guilt and shame. The fact that I am no longer indulging in that traitorous, treasonous act in the way that I was over the past 2 years means that I no longer carry around the guilt and the shame of the act itself. I no longer have to worry about dealing with those feelings of inferiority. And of course, all of this is subconscious. You don't just walk around consciously thinking that you're inferior to people. But when you know that you have these skeletons in your closet, a lot of times you project that in the way that you convey yourself to the world. And in a sense, that projection is the lack of confidence that other people see in you. Try running a channel, a YouTube channel that's predicated on inspiring young men without having confidence, having all of these skeletons in your closet. It's very, very difficult, almost impossible to do that. I wasn't able to crack that code, but now I don't need to because I'm doing no PMO. That said, the next benefit that I've experienced from doing no PMO for 60 days has been more discipline. Now, this is really interesting because this builds on the previous benefit. I have more confidence, therefore I have more discipline. What's the correlation between the two? Well, when you have more confidence, again, you have more trust and less guilt. And when you have less guilt and more trust, you act in accordance with how you perceive yourself. You perceive yourself as a trustworthy person who has nothing to hide. And because of that, you naturally act in a more disciplined manner because you're moving from a place of conviction and belief. When you believe in yourself, you believe that the outcome that you want to achieve is achievable, not just in a vacuum, but achievable for you. And when you truly believe that your dreams are achievable, discipline is a natural byproduct of that. It is a natural byproduct. How could you not be disciplined if you know that what you're doing is going to work? If you already know it's going to work, you're going to be disciplined. If I told you right now that if you post 50 YouTube videos, the 50th one will go viral and get you monetized and get you out of that minimum wage job, what would you do? You would post 50 videos in the next week. You would be filming nonstop because you know with 100% certainty that it's going to work. And so when you learn to believe in yourself in that sort of way, you believe with the conviction of 160,000 plus young men who believe in you, that your path is going to take you to the place that you promised yourself that you would get to, then how could you not be disciplined? How could you not take the steps that you need to take on a day-to-day basis? Discipline is a natural byproduct of confidence, but it's also a direct byproduct of no PMO. Because when you deny yourself the instant gratification of PMO, which is pretty much the most pleasurable and accessible activity that any young man can hope to experience, you are going to develop more discipline simply because you are replacing your instant gratification with delayed gratification. And that's really all discipline is. It is you foregoing instant gratification for the sake of a larger, more meaningful and fulfilling dream. And as a result of having more discipline in my day-to-day life and my behavioral patterns, I also have the third benefit of no PMO, which is more energy. You see, the reason why I have more energy, the reason why I speak with so much more conviction now in my videos is because I'm using my energy much more efficiently. When you're more disciplined, you don't waste your energy on things that don't deserve it. So, for example, I don't consume pornography. I don't watch Netflix. I don't really watch basketball anymore. I do check the scores from time to time, but you get the idea. Okay, I'm not really indulging in instant gratification these days. Everything that I do or everything that I consume is consumed with intention. I'm not trying to kill time. I'm trying to use my time as effectively and efficiently as possible. And when you're disciplined, you naturally do that. And so what you'll realize is that if you stop wasting your energy watching a bunch of entertaining content that's not actually giving you anything in return of value, then you will naturally have more energy because you're not wasting it. If you drive your car in such a way that you're always going to where you need to go and you're not just driving haphazardly with no destination, that fuel tank is going to last you longer. Plain and simple. And you are the same exact way. When you use your energy more efficiently by being more disciplined, you have more energy to put toward building your dream life and helping other people do the same. Now, on that note, what have I been doing with all of these benefits? How have I been using this newfound confidence and discipline and energy to not only build a better life for myself, but build a better life for you? As you can see, I haven't been very active on YouTube, which means that I've been working on something behind the scenes. And this is true. I have been working on something behind the scenes. I have been using all of these benefits from No PMO to write my newest book, the PMO Relapse Recovery Guide. The PMO Relapse Recovery Guide is a short ebook that is designed to help you turn your addiction into conviction in 15 minutes or less, assuming an average adult reading speed of 250 words per minute. I wrote this PMO relapse recovery guide because I wanted to help as many young men who are in the same position or a similar position as I was in 2022 as possible. Because if I had had that book the day that I fell off the wagon, maybe I wouldn't have struggled the way that I have over the past couple of years. And if I can save you those 2 years that I can't get back, then my mission is accomplished. That said, I want to help as many young men as possible with this book, and that is why I'm giving it away for free $99, for absolutely no cost to you, no shipping and handling, nothing. It's a free ebook. All you need to do is click the link in the description to claim your free copy of the PMO Relapse Recovery Guide today.